Commissioners, thank you for the break. Very quickly, I want to address some of the issues I overlooked before I move on to the GPF. Now, I think it's important for us to accept that it appears that sometime on the 5th, the statements of polls were removed from the office of the returning officer. I think you can find that as a fact, because witnesses have said that. We have had no explanation as why that had been the case or where they had been moved to. But what we do know is that witnesses were told by the CEO that they were entitled to leave 2 party agents from each party in the office of the returning officer, I suppose with the anticipation that things were going to continue on the 6th. So that night, when the heavily armed tactical services unit comes in, and when, before they come in, we have the DCEO telling people to get out of the returning officer's office, I think we have to ask ourselves, what was the reason for this? The only outcome of this that we know, caused by the removal of these witnesses, was the apparent removal of the statements of polls. I think that is an inference that could be drawn. As I think Ms. Rasool had said in her evidence, that was the last time I saw the statements of polls. With respect to the CEO played an important part in all of this. I respectfully disagree with what this CCJ decided in 2019, or how they described him as being a lone ranger, because I think what is clear to us is this was no lone ranger. He was riding with a posse. He had supporters. All of what occurred could not have happened had he been a lone ranger. So I'll just quickly run through some of the things that he did which caused concern. Gunraj told us that when they had to go to the recount, the CEO said, I can't arrange for this within an expeditious period of time. I need at least 156 days. This is after all the court cases and CARICOM interventions and so on. 156 days to organize for a recount. He puts all sorts of obstacles, it's in Gunraj's evidence, to the way in which the recount should be conducted. So he tries to delay the recount. When the recount is done, he refuses to give a report on the basis of the recount. He disenfranchises, he changes numbers, he apportions percentages of votes. He refuses to adhere to the chairman of the commission's directives to produce a report, because without his report in law, the commission cannot then declare the eventual outcome of the elections. And then he goes and gives a press release talking about his constitutional role. I think he forgot that he was the CEO and not the chairman of the commission. But the activities of the posse who rode with him, of course, will come out from a review of the evidence.
We have an evidence, this press release as to his constitution.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is, I think that went into evidence through the chair of GCOM. And I think he may have even written to her saying something along those lines.
He described himself as a constitutional officer. He described himself.
Yes. So it seems as though he thought he was a constitutional officer, but one not required to abide by the Constitution. And then, of course, I'm not going to, because the evidence is fresh with respect to the court cases, I'm not going to go too much into that. But what we do know is Guyana was held, the citizens of Guyana they had been held at ransom because of the activities of these people from the 4th of March onwards. And one of the observers from the Private Sector Commission explained why that was so important and how it could hurt the country and why the Private Sector Commission was so concerned about the delays caused. And I will go just perhaps use his evidence to segue into the GPF. This is a problem when nobody else can read your handwriting, so I can't ask any of my juniors to look at my notes to tell me where I am. Here we are, Jerry Gobayo.
You can read your own handwriting.
I can, yes, I can. Jerry Gobayo was an observer from the Private Sector Commission. He'd been involved with the observers and so on. But there is an exhibit, 2 exhibits that were put in through him, CG6 and CG8, which I think you might find useful. CG6 is a press release given by the private sector complaining that the Guyana police force seemed to be acting under direct political direction. This was a complaint made publicly, and there was no response or action to this. CG8 is a letter that they wrote, I think, to the chair of GCOM, expressing their deepest concerns about the fraud, and they used that word in their letter, perpetrated by senior staff of GCOM. And they got no response to that letter. And I use that because, rather surprisingly, persons who have been charged with criminal offences pertaining to those elections and their conduct therein appear to still be working at GCOM, and I don't know in what organization in which any country can repose trust such a thing would occur. It's like if you were a police officer and you're charged with a criminal offense and you're told carry on with your duties as usual. What we know in institutions which carry a special requirement or a special responsibility to the country, if you are charged or there is an allegation and you are suspended and you are told, okay, well, we agree that you have your presumption of innocence and so on, but please, don't stick around. So I find that rather alarming, and perhaps the Commission may want to offer some views on that. So Mr. Lewis, who was the head of the tactical unit, basically says that he was not aware that the unit had been called out for the first time when the unit was said to have gone to Ashman's building to remove the chair. Now this whole thing confuses me, and reading over the evidence, quite frankly, didn't offer me much resolution. Because we are told that by the chair and by other witnesses that Azor took the chairman out of the building. The Tactical Services Unit, through Officer Ali, is quite clear. They were told to go to the building to remove the chair, and they did so. And I've tried to find in the evidence a resolution of those 2 accounts, and I can't. I really can't. What we do know is that she was removed from the building. What we do know, what I think you can make a finding on, is there was absolutely no reason for Tactical Services Unit to be called out to Ashman's building.
Can I ask, when I keep in mind the terms of reference, which is essentially who or what frustrated, prevented, obstructed national response declaration, even if there is a finding that there was no need for the TSU to be called, does that impact those specific terms of reference in your view?
Yes, I think so. Because the purpose, we must remember, and we have a video of it as well, TSU is being called at a time when almost everybody had gone. The returning officer's office was almost empty. In fact, even Ms. Rasool had said that their security advisors had told them to leave the building by that time. So there were very few people there. You will see a video which will assist you in your determination of that. But it was clearly intended to intimidate whoever was left there. These last persons seeing the statements of polls. It was intended to intimidate them into leaving that building.
Mr.
Commissioner?
We heard that Ms. Myers wanted the building cleared. We heard from Assistant Commissioner Thomas. She asked him to get people out of the building, and he refused. But we know that the Tactical Services Unit arrived and cleared people out of the building. Do you think that the circumstances lend themselves to us drawing an inference in that matrix?
Of course, because we know the process. We know the Tactical Service Unit moves only under the Commissioner of Police. I don't think even the former commissioner denied that. Now, Nurse came and pretended, in my respectful view, that he didn't know about the first exercise. He only knew about the second one. And then he could not stick to one description of the second one. Was it to secure? Was it to remove? Was it to evict? He couldn't stick to one account. But we do know that the Tactical Services Unit, a heavily armed unit, specially trained to deal with the most extreme provocations in law, were called out to deal with citizens sitting down waiting in the returning officer's office on the night of the 5th.
And I think added to that, Thomas said that he never made any requests, so the request would start with Thomas to the commissioner.
Correct. Yeah, so no request was made. The commissioner says, well, I did send people there, you know, but it was mayhem and law and order. It was a law and order issue. Well, the footage you will see and the exhibits you have in your possession will tell you how to assess what was said by that witness. So what I'm saying is, are they working separately? Are they working in conjunction with GCOM or anybody at GCOM? So I'm looking to see what is said and done, or if there is anything said and done, which you can use to draw any inferences for or against. What we do know is that when the DCEO wants to have the building cleared, she issues a directive to the commander. He refuses because in his mind, I am here to perform my duties as commander of the division, and I don't find in my assessment of it that there is anything here that requires removal of these people. she calls Graham, Deputy Commissioner of Operations, who then calls Thomas. And we know that from the former commissioner that he had told Graham to stand Thomas down. And the inference you could draw is stand Thomas down, not because we couldn't find him, because Thomas's telephone records show you the number of calls on one phone that he said he had. He had 2 on a radio. And he had ranks outside. So Thomas, in his professional evaluation, makes an evaluation which doesn't find favor with Myers. She calls in the big guns. Graham, Thomas is stood down. Azor is put in his place. Commissioner, however, wants to depart from that. He wants to resign from that position. He doesn't want to say he gave the order for Thomas to be relieved of his position. He says, no, sorry, basically, we took the decision, but I don't think anybody told him. I don't think that is something that this commissioner can accept. It makes absolutely no sense. The point is, Thomas also told us that the commissioner called him. The commissioner who claimed that he couldn't find Thomas called him around that time, saying, if you don't clear the building, then I will. And then TSU appears. Now this is apart from the various other police officers they had there inside that building during that day. And you have the accounts of the role of the police officers after that day. So on the 6th, for example, police officers are barring Sace Gunraj from entering Ashman's building. He said he went there because he knows that that was a day for a recount. And we know that people were trying to take in notices of recount. The commissioner is out far down the block behind a police barricade. And we have to infer that someone gave orders to those police officers. We know it wasn't Thomas, because the then commissioner had sent him his way. We know it wasn't Thomas. So somebody had ordered the police to start to act in a manner which was threatening, which was unlawful, and which was intended to prevent the continuation of the transparent and accountable electoral process provided for in law in Guyana. Now, as I indicated, there are just a few little points I want to touch on. The recounts. It is interesting to note that despite the fact that Ramson tried to get to GCOM to give in his notice of recount, he couldn't until the very last minute. And he had to stand by a barricade in a threatening crowd waiting. The returning officer, who hitherto had not been seen for days, then refuses to accept him as a counting agent, even though you have documentary evidence that he had been so duly appointed. And in fact, the returning officer refuses to accept any request for a recount. And this, according to the Attorney General, happened not only after the first declaration of Mr. Mingo, but it also happened later down in the month after he made his second declaration signed by Carol Joseph. So there was a clear intent that the figures that these persons had decided were going to determine who would form the next government of Guyana. Those figures, as far as they were concerned, they knew they didn't meet the standards of law, but they were insistent that those were the figures that had to be relied upon. That is a clear inference from this.
And that touches the question of the will of the people, doesn't it?
Of course, the deep democratic rights set out in Article 6 of the Constitution. That's our starting point. We come back to that. It's a subversion. It's not acting not in accordance with the will of the people. That's too mild. And I use strong words because it is a strong infraction. It is a serious infraction that commissioners you have to consider. And infractions not by one person, but by a group of persons. Now, I know that people don't like to hear lawyers standing up and droning on for hours. So, and I also know that the demographic of the viewing public is different. So older people might be more minded to be patient, but younger people want to have something more exciting to look at. So before I do my close-off, which will be very brief, I will be inviting Mr. Griffith to do a presentation to you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you, Senior. Commissioners, I will draw your attention to the screen where we will just kind of recap some of the activities and the events during the process, some of which my Senior has touched on today. So can the PowerPoint presentation be displayed, please? Senior has first alluded to some of the sections and the terms of reference which you will have before you for your consideration. Can we skip through the terms and the articles in the Constitution, please? Thank you. Commissioners, to give you a visual, we have a slide here showing the chair of GCOM and the 6 commissioners, the first 3 who were appointed by the president on his own deliberation, and the other 3 who were appointed based on the advice of the leader of the opposition after consulting with the political parties not occupying government in the National Assembly. Please continue. We have here, Commissioners, VP1, which is the official elections manual, which was tendered by the current Chief Elections Officer. And you will have that for your consideration. We then have the organizational structure for the polling personnel who work the election. And of course, at the top, we have the returning officer, Mr. Clairmont Mingo, and some of the other officers were the election clerk or the clerical assistant, the deputy returning officer, the election clerk, clerical assistant, presiding officers, assistant presiding officers, ballot clerks, poll clerks, and information clerks. We then have a chart, please continue. We then have a chart showing the path that the statements of polls would take when they are taken from the election, from the polling offices on polling day to the command center. And you will have that to assist you with your deliberation. Please continue. Commissioners, we have some photographs of the GCOM command center. And you may recall when we all went to GCOM and some of the things that we saw there at GCOM. And you will see, please, a little too fast. Go back, please. Go back. Yes. You will see this is a stairway where Mr. Clairmont Mingo made the declaration. And the level just above this, or where you're seeing now, sirs, is where the GCOM Secretariat was located, to which my senior alluded to during her presentation. Continue. We have the tabulation room where the ballots, the SOPs are being tabulated and verified, and as you can see, all of the rooms, or all of the shots show that the rooms were all made of glass. You can see in and out for an intended transparent process. Please continue. More photographs of the tabulation room. Here we have photographs of the packages arriving and being received at Ashman's building. Continue. Here we have a video for you, and this is where Mr. Clairmont Mingo, the returning officer, was advising all present party agents and observers of the process that was about to be ensued for the tabulation process before it commenced. Can you please play the video?
Until we're ready by 2 o'clock, so that all on Sunday can be.
Can you increase the volume, please? Increase the volume.
With all the packages, but arrange them, because when we start with soft Georgetown first, arrange them in order and then send them to the fold and come back. By which time I expect by 4 o'clock everybody should have the order that we will be setting up to start the verification process. So I will just count for a while to arrange that. But, so.
Thank you. And commissioners, you will find from that video that when Mr. Mingo was giving an explanation of the process of how it would be done, there was no mention of the intended use of the spreadsheet. Please continue. Next slide. Here is a photograph of Mr. Clairmont Mingo being taken out of the Ashman's building by paramedics and into an ambulance, which a lot of the witnesses also testified to. Continue, please. Here we have a video, sir, of the chief election officer announcing that a break in the tabulation process was about to be taken because some of the staff were tired. Could you kindly press play, please?
Instead of till we finish each one. I think I got the right one.
Ladies are tired, is that a problem? He will find, he will replace it.
Come to the house. Let's go to I think I got.
Ladies are tired, is that?
Commissioners, it seems like we're having some technical difficulties. But you will have the benefit of the to make through the video, which was already tendered as well. Can we continue to the slide after that video, please?
Instead of till we finish each one. I think I got the right one.
Ladies are tired, is that a problem? He will find, he will replace it.
Come to the house. Let's go to
Thank you. Please switch the next one. Commissioners, this is a photograph of Mr. Enrique Levan, who was confronted about removing the laptop and the flash drive. And you will recall that Enrique Levan was summoned by the Commission as a person of interest, and he came and he exercised his constitutional right to silence. Continue, please. Here we have a photograph of the flash drive which was used to transfer the spreadsheets to the laptop. And you will recall the evidence of Ms. Bowman, who indicates that the flash drive was hers, and she volunteered the use of the flash drive to transfer the spreadsheet to the laptop, which was being used in the tabulation room. Continue, please. Commissioners, this is a video of party agents inquiring from Mr. people in the field about the use of a DRO to resume the tabulation process.
You wasted an entire day with people calling in sick, people being rushed to the hospital, third person sick. Like let this process continue until it finishes.
Which is what you said would happen. Right.
Let's get it water.
Why do you think this is
listen clearly to me. I'm hearing all of you.
No, this is...
Because I already don't understand what it is. I made a promise to you telling me no, but the competency is of the agency.
But we're all here. We're your people to get the process.
Right. So,
Forward. What? That's
so, if they're not here, we want to.
No, there is one here. Authorized law to
The law
conduct the
says that
exercise.
every returning officer is a deputy returning officer.
Make it worse 2 hours. I first said they got carried some signings so I could get somebody here there fast. So this
Commissioners, the next slide represents a video as well of the Chief Election Officer refusing to utilize an available DRO to continue the process. We're just going to play a
We have the DRO here. Why are we starting? Why
is he not isn't he qualified? Is there a problem with him?
No.
Gentlemen said I agree, I'm not taking it.
I just think that we talk about
I agree with you.
I'm not worried about any gentleman.
I agree with
Mr.
you.
Lowenfield,
I am not making any sense.
Mr. Lowenfield, I am asking you, as the presidential candidate, as everyone around here, and why the process cannot start. We have a DRO here. The DRO is ready to proceed with the process. What is the interest of this DRO proceeding with the process of this time? You said earlier that you wanted this process to continue all night until it's completed. We have the DRO in position now. What is the holdback now? What is the holdback?
Thank you. Commissioners, the next slide will take us to a video
We have the DRO here. And then
Election Officer Ms. Roxanne Myers informing persons that the police have been summoned to the tabulation center to clear the building due to the bomb scare or the presence of a bomb.
Who are you?
Thank you. Commissioners, the next slide is a video of the then Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Karen Cummings, threatening to revoke the accreditation of international observers.
Yes.
I think you should stop.
Yes, so I
You're
just
giving avenue to
yes,
exit.
yes,
I
yes,
suggest that
yes,
you
yes.
take that.
So I just pass it on to congratulate you on what you're doing and just the kids. And I thank you very much. No, I won't do that. I just
take it away.
No, I'm just posting it. I know. I'm just honestly telling you I should have said this in my ears.
No, but it comes across
As intimidation, that you're trying to intimidate the observers when you speak about kick.
And of course, here in the video as well, you can see cellular phone is given to Dr. Cummings by the Deputy Chief Election Officer. The next slide will take us to the declaration of the District 4 tabulation. Before we get there's an important part of this video which will offer.
Yes. I think you should stop.
Yes, so I
will
start.
giving an to
yes.
exit.
Yes. Yes.
I suggest that.
Yes. Yes.
I
was not going to make it proper.
Why was that proper?
But I should take it back. I should take it back.
I speak on behalf of the common man. The largest.
I am not going to have nothing the common man disrespected by respect to
the meditation of the common man. I will speak I'm going for it. I'm going to speak to the common man Secretary General shortly. She needs to speak to me. I have a duty to her to report accurately. And I cannot know avoid speaking accurately.
Absolutely. I agree.
So that if you avoid things, because I'm saying it. No. They gave it, but give you back. Because people have never listened yet. I will not make it.
All right, thank you. I'm coming out. Thank you.
Thank you. The next slide takes us to the returning officer making the declaration. Next slide, please. The next slide is another video of the declaration from another angle. Commissioners, you heard yesterday from the AG that after the attempted or the declarations by the RO, court proceedings were initiated. So here on the screen we have the court orders which were obtained from Justice Lavendra Singh, thereby preventing the RO from making the declaration without first complying with the Representation of People Act. Sir, here we have another recording of the RO, Mr. Mingo, explaining how the spreadsheet was prepared and why he was using the spreadsheet to continue the process. This was even after the court had given certain orders.
The numbers I have those are my statements.
We are in for scrutiny of the answer.
Could you describe what is the process that is about to take place? Just arrive at these broadsheets. I took.
Commissioners, the next slide is Mr. Anil Nandlall complaining about the use of the spreadsheets.
It results in a reduction of EDP votes and an increase in the approvals. There is a lot of components.
In the 16.
In the 17. There is a consistency.
And every time I relayed, I also relayed the number of votes cast in that condition. All the statements of polls signed by the presiding officer.
Well, the police blocked the door for you because of the
The police removed all the unauthorized persons and the next. Here we have an audio of Dr. Barrett Jackio speaking about a random sampling process which was used as well during the tabulation.
With minor discrepancies. There was this list that was produced somewhere outside of the scrutiny of the observers and the parties that you presented as the way forward to accelerate the process of verification. Now, the list is being presented, we found several discrepancies. You came here, you did a random sampling, and you found that in all three cases, you had overage for one party, significant overage for one party. If the purpose of the exercise they're using the spreadsheet was to accelerate the verification, now clearly that cannot be the move. Given one, its unreliability, that is the list, and
Commissioners, the next slide is an interesting video, and I will ask the Commission to take keen special notice of this one, as well as the public, because this one shows directly the inconsistencies between the numbers which were being called by the spreadsheet, from the spreadsheets by the GCOM personnel, and the numbers on the statements of polls which were in possession of the party agents.
NU plus AFC 106, CG 2, LJP 1, PPPC 96, PRP 0, TCI 0, TNM 1, 9RP 0, 207.
4076, APNU 50.
4076, Anil 1, APNU plus AFC 80.
80, so they added on 30 votes.
LJP
Between the 50 and 100.
Thank you. Commissioners, next we have an audio of Ms. Carol Joseph threatening the observers. And you will recall that Ms. Joseph appeared before the Commission after she was summoned and exercised her right to silence.
The returning officer decides on the way forward. Observers observers are observers, they must play a role to observe.
I'm just asking with regard to
someone not said
with regard to her
other rule must
you have no construction.
We tell me know what observers and SOP and LOP and URP, the where this thing was, X, Y, 6, 8 votes.
Thank you. So here we have another slide highlighting some more inconsistencies between the SOPs and the numbers being called by GCOM staff. I believe this is the video.
And 4109, Anil 3, Atom plus AFC 133, CG 2, LJP 3, PPPC 206, PRP 3, PCI 2, TNM 0, URP 0, 352.
Thank you. Here's just a sample of the statement of polls, sir. Continuing, we have another video where Commissioner Gunraj, Commissioner of GCOM, was being prevented from entering the Ashman's building.
Good morning. I am at the RO4 office. As you're aware, we have been We have been invited here for a 9 a.m. start. It is now 20 minutes to 9, and there's been no movement in terms of us being allowed into the building. As I'm here, there are, let me flip this, there are representatives of the OAS and Commonwealth Observer teams. I am aware as well, there's a very heavy police presence, but we are being told by ranks who are present here this morning that we will not be allowed entry. I'm not sure what that position is.
Thank you. Commissioners, we have another video of Deputy CEO Roxanne Myers directing persons to leave the GCOM Command Center. Just have us about 3 more slides after this one.
Them says abandon me, says not. Says has left, said he will go with what order is. Please take your rubbish and leave. The police is in there now, they're putting me up.
So we have heavily armed ranks here.
Thank you. And as you could have seen in that video as well, Commissioners, we had heavily armed ranks entering the building as well. The next video, sir, shows police officers being used to bar PVPC counting agent, Mr. Charles Ramson, from entering GCOM to serve their recount notice.
Now, candidate Charles Ramson, returning officer. Provision that is clear to threaten the law. He is being barred from going beyond the barricade. Police ranks say they are acting on instructions. And the supporters are closing in.
Thank you. The next video is the head of the EU delegation commenting on the declaration process and the tabulation process that was done.
4, which was being led by returning officer Clairmont Mingo.
We said it very clearly. This tabulation process for Region 4 was not credible. It was not reflecting the will of the people. It has clearly followed a process which was not the right process. I saw it personally. I was there. I was in the tabulation center. But again, it doesn't really matter that I saw it personally. What really matters is that all our observer missions saw it. So this goes back to what I just told you before. It is a mistake to underestimate the intelligence of people and of the people of Guyana as well. Because
thank you. The next slide, Your Honors, you heard the term spreadsheet and bed sheet. Here's a photograph of the bed sheet that was used. The bed sheet is shattered. The bed sheet. The final audio, sir, is an audio of numbers being called during the process of the GCOM staff.
Boston Park 744, Anil Nandlall, APM 744, CG0, LJP0, PPC6, PIP0, PLM0, box number 4745, Anil 0, APM 385, CG0.
The final slide, please, Your Honors, is a conversation from a WhatsApp group of deputy returning officers. And as you can see, Ms. Carlin Duncan, who also appeared before the commission and exercised her right to silence, was was instructing the deputy returning officers not to accept any documents which related to a recount. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioners. I think the highlights sort of give us an idea of the sound and fury which naturally followed the attempts to pervert the proper course of things during the electoral process. I would say, in closing, that let's put the sound and fury aside. Now is the time for cool reasoning, cool heads, and logical conclusions based on an analysis, a mature analysis of the reliable body of evidence which you have before you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Stewart. That final address by Ms. Stewart brings the curtain down on the very important aspect of this Commission of Inquiry, namely the public hearings. Our next task is to set about preparing our report, and that we will do with scrupulous care and fairness, keeping uppermost in our minds principles of natural justice and the rule of law. These public hearings could not have gone as smoothly as they have gone without the support of many. I wish, on behalf of myself and my fellow commissioners, to extend a warm thank you to Ms. Stewart and the juniors, who at all times displayed a high level of professionalism. We thank you. The indefatigable Secretary, Mr. Javed Shaikh. Words cannot express our appreciation for the part you have played in ensuring not only that this ran smoothly, but the commissioners were comfortable at all times. And we thank you. We also extend our thanks to the office staff, the media, and you, the listening public. We appreciate and understand the importance of free and fair elections. What we have seen and heard over the past several weeks, we will distill and in the shortest of time present a report to His Excellency the President. We thank also the security forces for ensuring our safety to and from respective places and our aids. So again, thank you all, and do have a pleasant day. This closes, as I said, the public hearings of the Commission of Inquiry.